Hi there. In this video, I want to follow up actually on a recent CELTA session, which I did online, and talk a little bit about intonation and also about linking. These were areas which I dealt with on a phonology session and would just like to give a little bit more information about it. And the first thing that I'd like to talk about are some really anticipated problems and then some tips about what we could do with those anticipated problems. So let's jump right into it. So, what to do about it? Well, let's think about some problems first. So, some problems that students might have with intonation include things like they worry about what they're saying, not how they're saying it. And as we know, with intonation, you can communicate a lot just with the tone of your voice. Okay, so if you say hello, hello, like, same word, two different meanings, right? So it's not just about what you're saying, it's also about how you say it as well. The accent will probably be monotone or have very narrow pitch range. The word here probably is, it depends, but, the influence of a student's first language can, really impact how they say something in their second language, i.e. English. They may feel embarrassed about it because in some ways intonation is kind of like singing in a way. It requires a little bit of it's a little bit performative, I guess, in the beginning. Of course, in natural speech, it's just natural, right? But when you're practicing in class, students might feel that spotlight on them a little bit. And there are few rules, and those that there are tend to be complex. This is a big one, especially when we're teaching. We like to give students rules. Students like to get rules because it's something that feels a bit more tangible that you can like hold on to and then use outside the classroom. So then you may think, well, why would I bother doing it then if there are so few rules? The big reason, like I say, is this, they worry about what they're saying and not how they're saying it, because how you say something really can have such a huge impact. So it's definitely worth paying attention to it, things like sounding polite, sounding friendly, etc. It's definitely, going to have a big impact on how successful a student's communication is. So it's definitely worth paying attention to, even though there are few rules. And maybe the rules themselves may be less valuable than just pointing out, hey, this is what happens, pay attention to this sound and try and reproduce this sound. There are some generalizations, however, for example, confirmation tags fall, real questions rise. And, like I said, these are generalizations. They're not always 100% true, but worth pointing out. It's something that we can point out to learners that, often they want to rise with real questions like, where are you from? Which is not natural, right? A natural question would be kind of like falling there, wouldn't it? Where are you from? So, sometimes students have inverted kind of perceptions of what should happen with the intonation. This is often caused by a transfer from their first language, often, but not always, of course. But the intonation is very important, especially in functional language. This is really a big takeaway for CELTA trainees and really teachers at any point in their career, that when you're teaching functional language lessons, intonation is really going to be the big thing that you're going to focus in on in terms of pronunciation. So even with beginners, it can make a difference because at least they will sound polite and friendly. So let's talk about some advice. What can we do about these things? So we can focus on reception before production. So basically let the students hear it first. You know, when we teach pronunciation, we talk about modeling first and then get the students to produce it. When we model it, we mean, teacher, you give an example and then get the students to reproduce it. Not, you know, I don't mean writing something on the, sorry, I lost my video there. I don't mean writing something on the board or sharing your screen and say, oh, how would you say this? Or putting like nice arrows to show intonation and say, okay, look, it's telling you what to do. Now you say it. No, you should give the model and get students to repeat from there. Use exaggerated models. Students will automatically moderate it. This is a really good idea. So just exaggerate your intonation, and because that will point out where the highs and the lows are a bit more clearly to students. Hum the pattern. I'm a big fan of humming for intonation and for word stress and for sentence stress. Humming, I think, is a great way, because humming kind of lays down the foundation and then you just plonk the words on top of it, right? Like, where are you from? See what I mean? Okay. You know, be sensitive with your learners. You know, if you see that they're getting, you know, quite embarrassed, you know, don't laugh at their attempt. Don't put them under the spotlight too much. You know, you do have to push them a little bit, of course, but yeah, remain sensitive. Use arrows and stress marks, but don't rely on them to convey the stress. Use them as a follow-up, you know, so model, hum it, show it, get the learners to do it, and then, you know, mark up your board or mark up your screen to show where the stress is then visually. It's like a supplementary takeaway for the learners. Use your hands and gestures. Record them and let them compare themselves to the model. You know, we have all this technology, so why not take advantage of it? Tell students to sound interested. If the class can cope, mimic their board intonation, but this definitely links to, you know, be sensitive. So I would say mimic their board intonation, but don't make fun of them. Keep it lighthearted and humorous. Again, this will help a lot with sensitivity and kind of inhibitions that students may have around it. But above all, you know, raise the students' awareness to intonation. It's just really crucial to taking that next step and making your language sound more natural. So the next area then, after intonation, the next area to talk about will be particularly linking. I'll talk briefly about other areas of linking, which is elision, intrusion, and assimilation. All of this, linking, elision, intrusion, assimilation, all of these things can be called connected speech. So towards definition, well, linking is where you have a consonant sound at the end of the first word, which is connected to a vowel sound at the beginning of the next one. So we'll see some examples of that, but just remember, a consonant at the end will connect to a vowel at the beginning of the next word. Broadly speaking, English tends to, for want of a better way of putting it, like a tendency of consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. That's kind of like the bricks and cement of English. That's how it all kind of like sticks together. Elision, this is where we kind of miss out some sounds. You might be thinking, why would we miss out some sounds? Well, we'll see an example in a moment. Intrusion, this is the opposite of elision in a way. It's where an extra sound is added between words. And assimilation, this is where a sound is changed due to the influence of a neighboring sound. Okay, so these are the four areas of connected speech. You're going to pay particular attention to linking, and these 2, 3, and 4, these are something to focus on, I would say, really beyond CELTA, but definitely have in your mind at, you know, your CELTA training stage of your career. So listen closely, and can you identify the aspect of pronunciation? When I say identify the aspect, I mean these four. Is it linking, elision, intrusion, or assimilation? So if you want to take a moment, just pause the video here and think about what these could mean. And now, let's do this example. So listen closely. Which one of those four is happening here? So pick it up, put it over there, turn it off, and need it on. So I'll do them in slow-mo, so maybe you can pick up on this. So pick it up, put it over there, turn it off, I need it on. So pick it up, put it over there, turn it off, I need it on. So these are clearly, you can probably even see it visually. Like, so when we talk about consonants, we're referring to sounds, but we can also see a consonant letter and a vowel letter, and those do produce those sounds. So that's just an example of linking, where the consonant links to the vowel. Okay, let's look at a way of thinking about the next aspect of pronunciation by thinking about some apples. So each time I want you to ask yourself, how many? And just say the sentence to you, or the phrase to yourself to describe this. How many apples? So really what you should say here is 1 apple. And if we were to write this 1 apple, yes, the final letter here is a vowel. However, the final sound of 1 is a consonant sound. So that gets stuck to the apple and it becomes 1 apple. It becomes a napple. 1 apple. Let's do another example. This time, how many? Just as you did in the previous time, you said 1 apple. So this time, what would you say? Of course, you would say 2 apples, wouldn't you? So 2, the final sound of 2 is oo, so that's a vowel sound. And the first sound of apple is apple. So oo and those are 2 vowels, but we need a consonant to stick them together, don't we? So it becomes 2 apples. And if you just remove the 2, you get wapples, right? 2 apples. Seems kind of like magic or something. Okay, let's try it this time with 3. So before we had 1 apple, 2 apples, and now we have... Say it out loud to yourself. Try and hear what's in between the number and the apples. Of course it is yapples, isn't it? 3 apples, 3 apples, 3 apples. Now for the last example, you're probably going to need to pronounce this number kind of like they do in England and maybe some other countries like South Africa or Australia. With my Irish accent, I would say 4. So I have a strong R there. But like in the UK, for example, they would, in various parts of the UK, maybe not all of the UK, they would say 4. Please forgive me, any English people watching this video. That's my rough approximation of English pronunciation, British English pronunciation of the number 4. Not trying to do the accent, just the pronunciation. And you guys can try and do my funny Irish accent if you want to. I promise I won't be offended. But let's say an English person were saying this. So an English person would say 4, and they wouldn't say 4 apples. They would say 4 apples. The R comes back in. Another example of where this R comes back in again, I would say law and order, whereas a British person might say law and order. Law and order, like the R kind of comes back in there. So listen closely and identify the aspect of pronunciation here. So you understand. Who else? I am. Tea, your coffee. We are. Law and order. Asia and Europe. Asia and Europe. So all of these are really just examples of intrusion. So Remember we said that intrusion was where an extra sound is added. So that's what all my examples there about the apples were all about. Okay, so listen closely and try and identify which aspect of pronunciation is happening here. First light, just one. Mashed potatoes. I went a little faster, but that's elision. If I go back here, if I say these words individually, first light. Now say them together, first light. The T kind of gets swallowed there a little bit, doesn't it? Just one, just one. Mashed potatoes, mashed potatoes. Okay, so this is basically what's happening here is we're getting a what's referred to as a cluster of consonants, or a consonant cluster, and English speakers, we're not good at that, so we tend to just swallow one of them to reduce the number of consonants. Or maybe I shouldn't put it that way, we're not good at consonant clusters. It's just that English as a language doesn't tend towards pronouncing consonant clusters. So just swallow them and they're elided. And there's elision. Okay, and then on the last one, listen closely. Identify the aspect of pronunciation. Did you have to? Handbag. Handbag. So again here, this is an example of assimilation. So if we go back to our, a sound is changed due to the influence of the neighboring sound. So this is did and you, but it becomes ju. Did you? Have with a v sound, and to becomes have with a kind of f sound, a have to. Hand, bag, so we have three consonants there. It kind of becomes an like an m, and a very light b sound. It becomes handbag. And it's just because of all of the consonants coming together, it makes that kind of assimilated sounds. Okay, so that was just a quick video on intonation and linking for those taking their current CELTA course. This is all an aspect of pronunciation. Of course, there are many aspects of pronunciation, word stress, sentence stress, phonemes or sounds, and of course you could take a much deeper dive into all of these aspects of pronunciation. But I hope that this video was of help and give you some good insights into these aspects of pronunciation, and you can take it into your lessons and point it out to your learners. Like you need to start to try and grow in awareness. Listen to yourself when you speak, listen to the radio, listen to the TV, listen to Netflix, and when you hear somebody on your favorite show on Netflix say, "Oh, I just have to get my handbag," hear that assimilated sound. Or if somebody's at the shop and say, "Oh, should we get just get 2 apples?" Hear the wapples. Try to become aware of it so that when it happens in your lesson, you can point that out to the learners. Now, of course, you're not going to get into the same level of depth that I got into here with you. This is the level of depth that I got into here with you was to make you as teachers understand what's happening, so that you can just very quickly point it out to learners. You don't need to get into the linguistics of it or anything talking about consonant clusters. Don't worry about any of that. Just point it out to them and help them to pronounce it correctly, or notice yourself that the reason why students are, when they pronounce if you're pre-teaching the word handbag and they're saying handbag, know what's happening there. Oh, it sounds strange because they're pronouncing everything, and just maybe make a gesture, handbag, handbag. So something like that will do the job for you. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one. Bye for now.